Welcome back to another edition of NCSA Live. I'm Carrie Brown and I'm here with Randy Taylor, 30-year college coaching veteran. And to kick off Social Media Week, we're going to be talking to you about the importance of social media in recruiting. Social media has taken on a life of its own inside the arena of college recruiting. Participants of each kind, from the student athlete to the coaches to fans, media, and even parents, are using social platforms to gain an advantage. So Coach, how are college coaches using social media?
You know, these days, the old days of the 16mm film, we didn't have to worry about it. But college coaches are using social media to get a deeper look at potential athletes. It really is a great resource for us. What you post on Facebook and Twitter are a direct reflection of who you are and what you're doing. Coaches are looking at all of your pages and deciding if you have the type of character that they want on their team. For example, the University of Virginia's head football coach Mike London said, "You will find out more about guys on Facebook and Twitter sometimes than you will having a 10-minute conversation with them, because a lot of times they'll let their guard down and show a side maybe you haven't thought about before." You know, every time I go speak to athletes and families, we talk about they need to be online, right? But they got to be careful when they put their information online. Facebook is used by college coaches to determine your character, okay? Really, really important, Carrie.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Coach. College coaches are embracing social media since it plays a major role in many of lives of student athletes today. So social media is huge as far as the communication goes for these young athletes, especially with prospects. Ohio State's Urban Meyer said recruiting is about relationships and communication, and it is a big part of it right now.
Yeah, you know, to the point where even there's a young man that committed on Facebook. And that relationship is really, really important point that the coach makes, because they're learning about you, but you have a chance to learn about them. It goes both ways. In the old days, we used to send out recruiting brochures, but we don't have to anymore. We can put that information on Facebook, and we'll friend an athlete, or they'll friend us, or however that stuff works. But then the other side of it is we learn about you too. So learn about us as college coaches, learn about what we say, how we say it, same way as they are learning about you, what you say, how you say it, to determine if we could have a relationship when I get to that school, if I'm the athlete or a parent.
Like anything in the sporting world, it's no surprise that some college and professional athletes have made national news because of public Twitter and Facebook incidents. But what about the high school athletes? Should they be any less worried when it comes to public tweeting and Facebook posts?
Absolutely not. You know, you're never too young to be held accountable for what you tweet or post. I always say you're always being recruited, and you should think about that way. Just think about this young guy, Uri Wright. In January, this highly recruited cornerback from Ramsey, New Jersey, in a great high school program, was expelled from a private football powerhouse after a series of sexually graphic and racial Twitter posts. Those tweets cost him a football scholarship to a couple of schools that he might have really wanted to go to. It's a big mistake.
Yeah, he was lucky that a school in Colorado ended up still giving him a scholarship.
Yeah, University of Colorado.
Yeah, his dream school, Michigan, pulled his scholarship immediately. And so this is a real thing that student athletes need to be concerned about. And later that month, even Pittsburgh recently pulled a scholarship offer from a young man, a high school cornerback. He tweeted that his distaste at the fact that the Panthers had picked up a fourth cornerback commitment.
Yeah, Marzette Jeter is the, yeah, absolutely. Highly recruited defensive end Noah Spence from Bishop McDevitt had a similar situation. He learned a lesson of the pitfalls of social media when he was tweeting about Jerry Sandusky and that abuse scandal at Penn State, and it went viral in November. You really, really got to be careful. This tweet came toward the end of his recruitment period when every media outlet in Pennsylvania was speculating on where Spence might go to college, and it threw him into the spotlight for a few uncomfortable days. It's not a coincidence that 3 high-profile Twitter incidents involving high school student athletes have occurred in the last 6 months. While most recruits are expected to understand that anything they say could be fodder for fans and the media, not every high school athlete thinks about these things when throwing up a post on Twitter. Always ask yourself, do I want this on the front page of the newspaper?
With high schools on Twitter now, parents, coaches, and administrators are starting to navigate questions about whose responsibility it is to teach kids what's appropriate for social media and what the best way to do this might be. We at NCSA want to help educate student athletes on how to responsibly use social media. We have some best practices to share and some simple do's and don'ts to follow. A random poll of sampling high school student athletes, coaches, and athletic directors revealed that in general, most schools and teams do not have specific official policies or guidelines to govern the use of social media by student athletes.
You know, for the most high school coaches, social media etiquette is something you talk about, but not necessarily something that's required. Student athletes aren't always explained the do's and don'ts. So who is responsible for monitoring student athletes' social platform? Yeah, parents. You. Are you reminding your athlete to be careful about what they are posting on Facebook and Twitter? Really important.
Most high school coaches won't be occupied with monitoring Twitter and Facebook accounts for all of their players. Many feel that that's the responsibility of the parents, some of whom might not even know how to use social media. Seniors, are you stepping up as athletes and helping your younger teammates navigate social media? If not, it's time to start. If the school isn't making a concerted effort toward educating student athletes on social media etiquette, it should be up to the athlete, parent, coach, athletic director, teammates, etc. to take the responsibility. We have the top 20 best practices along with some do's and don'ts for student athletes using social media. Number 1, if you wouldn't want your grandmother to see it, then don't post it.
Another one, if you even hesitate for a second to post it, don't. There's a reason you hesitated.
Make sure your default picture and all others are appropriate. This gets a lot of kids on Facebook in trouble.
No question. Your Twitter handle should be appropriate. No crude words or slang.
Privacy settings only go so far. Social media is public, so don't forget that.
And respect yourself and respect others.
The laws of the real world still apply in the world of social media. Showing underage drinking is against the law. Harassment, hate crimes, cyberbullying, and plenty more that you need to keep in mind. These things are all still against the law, even in the social world.
Absolutely. And know this, retweeting profanity is no different than you using it in your own original tweets. Just don't do it.
Also, avoid replying or retweeting Twitter users with vulgar names.
You know, you're presenting yourself, okay? So if you're presenting yourself online, make sure that you do it in the right way. You don't want the world to see you as somebody that you've retweeted, right? You want to be presented as you, as that character that you really are.
Another thing along with that, don't allow a hater with 20 followers to bait you into a Twitter beef. Ignore them, and remember their actions are usually fueled by jealousy.
Another one, if you don't like something a media member wrote about you, your coach, your teammate, ignore it. Engaging in a public Twitter argument is a battle you won't win. In the old days, we had a saying with newspapers that if they said something bad about you, don't come back at them because you know what? They got all the ink. These tweeters, Twitterers, have all the time to tweet about you, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Consider polarizing topics off limits on Twitter. Avoid commenting on sexual orientation, race, and religious preferences. While all these things are important, Twitter probably isn't the best place to voice your opinions about these things.
Absolutely. You know, there are many other teams and student athletes at your school. Take the time to give them a shout out on Twitter when they do big things. It will help the teamwork. It'll help the whole culture that you're in. Ultimately, you're all on the same team.
Also, remember, what happens in the locker room stays there. Things that are said in private team settings should never find their way onto Twitter.
Absolutely. Don't tweet during class, right? That's like disrespecting someone, in this case your teacher, behind their back. And always be mindful that your professors or administrators may be monitoring your Twitter account.
Also, it's important to pay attention in class. So.
You know, that is a good thing.
If you feel like the Twitter guidelines your coaching staff and/or athletic administration expects you to comply with prevent you from keeping it real, then you should probably be your cue to reevaluate your definition of keeping it real. Your team support staff has your long-term best interest in mind, which is often hard to understand as a young athlete.
You know, your athletic compliance office administration is monitoring your Twitter account, and the NCAA has acknowledged that it monitors student athlete activity on Twitter as well. Even if you don't compete at a major conference or on a revenue sport, don't be fooled into believing nobody's paying attention.
Also, multiple mentions of the same business could be considered an endorsement, which is against NCAA legislation. So make sure that you're just staying amateur status and not retweeting or promoting anybody.
Yeah, that'll affect your amateurism. Don't let these rules prevent you from enjoying your Twitter experience, though. It's perfectly acceptable to show your personality and have fun on Twitter. It's encouraged, but like anything else, the key is to enjoy it and be responsible about it.
Social platforms such as Facebook and Twitter are giving coaches and student athletes more opportunities to talk to one another, especially with the recent changes to the NCAA rules. The NCAA has developed rules regarding social media sites such as Facebook, MySpace, and Twitter, while fully recognizing the social media world is constantly changing and developing.
Division I and II look at social networking less in terms of the technology being used and more in terms of its recruiting impact. NCAA rules do not allow comments from possible recruits on an institution's social media page or page belonging to someone affiliated with the institution.
Division II coaches can only use the private email function on social media sites, but there is no use of chat rooms, message boards, or posts to walls. Tweeting is permissible as long as coaches are not using it to contact individual prospective student athletes and are abiding by the standard recruiting rules such as not discussing specific recruits or contacting them when it's not permissible. Division III has different guidelines in place. In regards to electronic communication, social media legislation allows coaches and schools to utilize social networking sites to advertise their programs, but prohibit them from using the site for direct person-to-person contact with an individual potential student athlete.
It's important to learn and understand the NCAA rules on social media and recruiting. Remember that college coaches are on social media platforms and they are looking at your profiles. Keep the top 20 list of best practices and do's and don'ts in mind when using Twitter and Facebook. Hang these rules in your locker or at your home and your refrigerator. Always keep them handy so you can be sure to avoid negative publicity or the chance of losing a recruiting opportunity.
You're exactly right, Coach. For more tips on how to be responsible in the social world, check us out on Facebook at www.facebook/ncsasports.org or follow us on Twitter at NCSA. You can log on to our blog at www.ncsasports.org/blog to learn more about athletic recruiting and social media. Or if you have any questions, you can call us at 866-577-6272. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot.